Riverside, California, a sunny, modern city with a rich cultural life. At first glance, it might seem like just another bustling Southern California community, but beneath the ordinary, Riverside holds secrets in its very soil, and even in its shadows. From ghostly whispers in historic hotel hallways to long-forgotten gold mines in the nearby hills, and the explosive growth fueled by a different kind of gold, this city's past is anything but ordinary. In this documentary, we're peeling back the layers of Riverside's hidden history. Get ready for some spine-tingling ghost stories, a journey back to the days of the gold rush, and the uplifting tale of how Riverside grew from a humble settlement into a thriving city. Stay tuned as we explore ghosts, gold, and growth, the hidden history that shaped Riverside. When the sun sets in Riverside, some say the past comes out to play. Our first stop is the world-famous Mission Inn, a grand hotel over a century old and, according to legend, home to more than a few permanent guests who checked in but never checked out. The Mission Inn has hosted presidents and celebrities, but it's the lesser-known residents that fascinate ghost hunters. The hotel's original owner, Frank Miller, and his sister Alice put their heart and soul into this place, and some believe their spirits never left. Guests who stay in Frank's old room often report unusual happenings. Cold spots you can walk through, lights flickering, even the figure of a gentleman in early 1900s attire appearing for a moment before vanishing. In Alice's former room on the 4th floor, some visitors have felt a gentle touch on their shoulder when no one else was there. Creepy, right? And if you think that's unsettling, wait until you hear about the honeymoon suite. It's a beautiful 2-story suite with a spiral staircase, where a few honeymooning couples have reported being pushed on that very staircase by unseen hands. Some say it's Frank Miller himself, protective of his beloved hotel even in death, giving nosy guests a little shove. Others blame a construction worker's ghost, a man who tragically died during the hotel's renovations in the 1910s, supposedly still roaming the grounds. Below the Mission Inn lies another secret, a network of catacombs. In the early days, these tunnels were built as an underground museum and passageways. They even lead toward Mount Rubidoux, the mountain overlooking the city. Today, they're closed, but people whisper that late at night, phantom footsteps echo down there in the darkness. Brave or foolish souls who wander near Mount Rubidoux after midnight have claimed to see shadowy figures moving among the rocks, as if the spirits from the Mission Inn catacombs wander out under the open sky. But the Mission Inn is just one of Riverside's many haunted hotspots. In fact, this city has no shortage of ghost stories. At Evergreen Cemetery, some late-night visitors have heard strange sounds, including a loud boom echoing from the old crematorium when no one living was around. Imagine standing among those aging tombstones and hearing a door slam or a distant boom from an empty chapel. It's enough to make anyone's hair stand on end. And over at the Municipal Auditorium, there's talk of a ghost who just couldn't miss the finale of The Nutcracker. Legend has it a man suffered a heart attack in the balcony during a performance decades ago. And to this day, staff and theater goers occasionally glimpse a figure sitting up there in the shadows. They say he's a spectral patron who never got to see how the show ended, so he keeps coming back for an encore. The Victorian-era Heritage House on Magnolia Avenue is another source of local lore. It was once the home of Mrs. Catherine Bettner, and some say Mrs. Bettner's spirit still oversees the place. Visitors and staff have described odd happenings: faucets turning on by themselves, doors opening and closing with no explanation, and an icy chill in the parlor room. The joke around town is that Mrs. Bettner just doesn't like people messing around in her parlor. Ghosts at a hotel, ghosts in a cemetery, a ghost at the theater, even a grumpy ghost in a fancy old house. Riverside's haunted history is as varied as it is spooky. You might be wondering why so many ghost stories here? Well, Riverside is over 150 years old. Plenty of time for tragedies, mysteries, and colorful characters whose stories live on as legends. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, these tales are a reminder that history isn't just in textbooks, Sometimes it lingers right around the corner, or maybe right under your feet. And speaking of what lies under our feet, there's another kind of hidden history in Riverside that glitters just as brightly. Long before Riverside was even a town, this land drew people with the promise of gold. During California's gold rush in the mid-1800s, thousands of fortune seekers scoured the state. And while the famous gold fields were up north, the fever spread everywhere, even here along the Santa Ana River. The rivers and creek beds around Riverside saw their share of prospectors. They painstakingly panned the waters, hoping to see that telltale glint of a gold nugget. A few got lucky. Many went home empty-handed. But the mere whisper of gold was enough to pull new settlers into this area. By the 1860s, small mining camps dotted the region's hills. One of the biggest strikes in the vicinity was the Good Hope mine, located in the hills southwest of what is now Riverside. Good Hope mine became the richest gold producer in Riverside County. According to records, it yielded about $2 million worth of gold by 1896. And remember, that's in 1890s dollars. That's around $75,640,000 in 2025. This was no small-time operation. At its peak, the mine burrowed over 500 feet into the earth, with multiple levels of tunnels. The story goes that the mine started when a French prospector, known only as Mr. Mache, noticed flecks of gold in the area back in the 1850s. Mexican miners had actually worked the surface deposits first, using traditional arrastras, known as stone grinders in English, to extract gold from rock. But in 1874, the real jackpot was discovered. A gold-rich quartz vein hidden in those hills. Once that vein was found, investors poured in. They built stamp mills to crush the rock, and even a railroad line ran nearby to haul supplies and ore. Life in those mining camps was rugged and full of drama. Miners worked by candlelight in tight tunnels, breathing dust for hours as they chased veins of gold through the rock. Imagine the heat, the sweat, and the suspense. Every swing of the pickaxe could reveal a fortune or just more rock. In the evenings, the local taverns and campfires would be alive with stories, some true, many wildly exaggerated, of gold found or lost. Good Hope Mine thrived into the 1890s, but as with all booms, this one eventually went bust. By 1903, the rich ore had played out, and the mine shut down. An attempt to revive it in the 1930s failed when water flooded the tunnels, as if the earth itself decided to close that chapter. Today, if you drive between Lake Elsinore and Paris, not far from Riverside, you might pass near the old Good Hope site without even knowing it. It's quiet now, with just a few ruins and scars in the ground to show that men once clawed out tons of rock in search of riches. Riverside's gold story isn't just about one mine, though. Small gold strikes kept drawing folks to this region throughout the late 19th century. The Santa Ana River and local creeks yielded their share of color, as prospectors called gold dust. And even into the 20th century, a few hopeful prospectors still scoured these hills with metal detectors and dreams. In 1870, as the gold fever dwindled, a group of Easterners led by a man named John North saw a different kind of potential in this region. They founded a colony here along the Santa Ana River, not for gold mines, but for community, envisioning a town dedicated to education, agriculture, and healthy living. They named it Riverside. The timing was perfect. Just a few years later, Riverside struck gold again, not in the streams, but in the orchards. In 1873, a local resident named Eliza Tibbets planted 2 small orange trees in her yard, sent to her from Bahia, Brazil. These were a special variety of Navel oranges, and in the sunny soil of Riverside, they thrive like nowhere else. When those trees bore fruit, it was unlike anything folks had seen. Sweet, seedless, perfect for eating. Word got out quickly. By the 1880s, growers all around wanted cuttings from Riverside's magical orange trees. Orange groves began to blanket the valley. This was the start of California's citrus boom, sometimes called California's second gold rush. Money flowed into Riverside. By the 1890s, 500,000 citrus trees were planted in California, and almost half of them were in the Riverside area alone. Can you imagine the scent of all those blossoms each spring? The success was phenomenal. By 1895, Riverside had become the wealthiest city per capita in the United States. Yes, you heard that right. On average, people in Riverside were richer than anywhere else in the country, thanks to the humble orange. Riverside quickly transformed from a pioneer colony to a prosperous city. The wealth from citrus built mansions and funded community landmarks. One example, the modest guest house that grew into the Mission Inn. Yes, the same Mission Inn we visited in our ghost story. It was expanded and embellished by Frank Miller with that orange money, becoming a luxury resort that attracted presidents, royalty, and movie stars. The city didn't just grow in wealth, it grew in culture. By the turn of the 20th century, Riverside had the first golf course and polo field in Southern California, built by those prosperous orange barons looking for leisure activities. Grand avenues like Victoria Avenue were lined with beautiful homes and gardens. People from back east flocked here, drawn by the warm climate and the sweet smell of oranges, often for health reasons or to escape harsh winters. In 1907, Riverside even established a citrus experiment station on the hills overlooking the groves, a place for scientists to study how to grow even better oranges. That research station would eventually become the University of California, Riverside, UCR, years later. Through the early 20th century, Riverside kept growing. It weathered the ups and downs, land booms and busts, floods and droughts, even the Great Depression. During World War II, the city played its part, with the March Field Air Base just outside town training pilots and supporting the war effort, bringing even more people to the area. By the mid-20th century, Riverside was no longer just an agricultural town. It had become an education hub, a military town, and a center of the growing Inland Empire region of California. The orange groves gradually gave way to neighborhoods, schools, and businesses. The city's population boomed. Even as it grew into a modern city, Riverside held onto its history. Many of the old structures have been preserved, and thank goodness, because they give the city its character, and as we saw, some of its ghosts. The Mission Inn, the grand churches, the early 20th century courthouse, and dozens of vintage homes all still stand, telling the story of an earlier time. Today, Riverside is known as the city of arts and innovation, with museums, a vibrant university, and modern businesses. But take a closer look and you'll find the footprints of its past everywhere. An old orange tree still growing in someone's yard, an antique packing house repurposed into a food hall, or a street name like Prospect Avenue, hinting at the gold seekers of long ago. Cities, like people, grow and change. Riverside's journey from a riverside camp where prospectors swirled pans in search of gold to an orange-scented utopia of citrus wealth, to the diverse, dynamic city it is now, is a testament to vision and resilience. And through it all, the legends and lore, yes, even the ghost stories, give Riverside a personality unlike any other city in California. Riverside's hidden history, the ghosts, the gold, and the growth all come together to form the soul of the city. These stories remind us that even a place that seems quiet and ordinary can hold extraordinary tales just beneath the surface. Next time you stroll through downtown Riverside or find yourself near the Santa Ana River, imagine the layers of history under your feet. Picture the stagecoach drivers and miners, the citrus growers and innovators, and maybe even feel a friendly ghost or two watching from a dusty window of the Mission Inn. Riverside is a city that treasures its past while embracing its future. Its ghosts, gold, and growth stories aren't just trivia. They're a legacy that locals are proud of and visitors find captivating.